encourage you that don't have too many now, just one. There's a question from right here. I'm going to point to this man. He told the story. This is Mark Gazer, Watauga River Rainbow, in one of the early editions of this. So thank you for being here, Mark. It was a fantastic story. And Marty Olhout is here, back here, a tent for 7. Boy, what? Sometimes these stories end up being scary. And actually, Marty, we have some the copies of the book, A Tent for 7, over here. We're going to talk more about books later on too. Let me see. This is very scary for me to get all of this right. Jeremy Early is here. He's over here with Trailworks. So thank you for being here, telling the great story of building trails, which just like the Greenway. A lot of this happens. I'm coming to you later over there, Mike. I see you. Well, I better point him out. Honey on Point. If you've ever heard a happy dog story, we'd like to hear it, but it's not Honey on Point. It's a tearjerker, like many dog stories can be. But Mike Thomas, thank you for being here. Creativity is what we're going to learn about next. Before we had photography necessarily, we used art to be able to see into the past. And it is a talent that is worthy of recognition. And some of it is behind me. But who creates this type of artwork? And we learned about Lost Worlds Brewery and the tap room at the Metropolitan. But there's a brand new gallery that is located over at where Roosters is, in what I call the Pavilion off of Carnegie. And it is worth you stopping in. So it's 2 blocks away, essentially, on the other side of the mall. And creations just like this are all over that gallery, including figurines and more. And you can see it being created. And that's who our next storyteller is someone who uses his talent and his creativity to tell the stories of the past, of the present as well, and potentially of the future. All of that is on hand in different curations there. But we're going to learn about the adventures that take place when making those creations, how artwork happens. So join me in welcoming Dan Nance right here. My mother would be so proud.
All right, very good. 2 for 2 on that one. Can everybody hear me okay? Very good? All right. I'm going to move around a little bit, okay? This is kind of how I flow. That was a great intro there. This is what I do. I am a Charlottean, but my passion and my history and my whole career, I paint history for a living, and I paint scenes from the past so that we can learn from that and explore those things. I had a whole thing planned, but it just went to, we're just gonna wing it here. In fact, hold on, let me add. Okay, I'm gonna have my little notes right here. We'll set this up. Very good. I see these young people. This is exciting for me because this is who I'm going to talk about. This, you or me. This is what started. I grew up in the 80s, as we do. We had the golden age, a real golden age of movies and cinema and Saturday morning cartoons, and I just loved every bit of that. My earliest memories are watching Disney films. In fact, my favorite thing is Peter Pan, 1974, the year I was born. And that stuff just locks you up. You're going to have to flow with me as I go from point to point because I'm an artist. I'm not a business person, and it's just going to shoot all over the place. And in fact, if somebody wants to shoot questions out as I talk, that might help me stay grounded or just go from here to there. I loved storytelling from an early age. I loved developing these things. I grew up in the time of Spielberg. We grew up in the time of E.T. and these wonderful stories. The story of Star Wars, which I brought here tonight for reference. these are things that inspire people, and you wonder what inspires those people to tell those stories, and it's inspired from actually true events of, say, history. And these things mirror each other, and it's an amazing kind of thing. One leads to the other. When I was growing up here in the Carolinas, we're down I'm a Southerner, we're down here in the South. My father would take me to battlefields as an early part, and I would climb on the battlements and see things, or just experience, you listen to what the person told, the stories, but then you couldn't see it. And it really, I was like, I can imagine all of these soldiers out here, as we all did, but I really just took that to heart. And so from an early age, I just loved drawing and doing these things, and I wanted to work for Disney. I wanted to go down and be an animator. I thought it's still I just think that is the coolest job in the world, what they do down there. One of the coolest phrases the titles, they call them Imagineers. And I think that's just, I lived my life being an Imagineer. And I apply it to history, but I also apply it to different aspects as well. When I was growing up, I wanted to be Marty McFly and go back in time. I wanted a DeLorean to take me back in time. I wanted to be, Indiana Jones and have the adventures and discover something, or the Goonies that discovered the whole pirate ship in the end. That just got me going. And when I went to high school here at Carolina, I was in South Mac, graduated South Mac. But when I was in high school, I came up from Columbia, South Carolina to here in 1989, and I watched the movie Glory. And when the Glory came out, and I saw that, and that just changed everything. It made my creative world and imagination and science fiction and things, but this had a purpose with this Glory, and it really inspired me. And this is also the time of Dances with Wolves, an incredible movie. Braveheart, all of those things that kind of, took the spirit of some of the stuff, the earlier stuff of the themes of good and evil and blank by blank and fighting for freedom and liberation, representation, all of these good things. And it just gave me a kind of a mission statement. And so I ran with it, and I started painting in high school. It was very rough, and I drew all my life, and that was easy. I could draw Donald Duck, and I could draw all these different things, but I wanted to push myself, and I started my first painting career in high school, telling stories from the Civil War, which was inspired by Glory. Some of the neat things, and once it does, it sticks in you. Once you get a little bit of that hook, it's addictive, and you just want to tell another story and another story. And this is a great sandbox to play in because you're never going to run out of subject matter. I specialized in the Civil War. I was really fascinated by that from that initial Glory interaction. And I spent the first 10 years of my professional career painting the Civil War. So I've documented the heck out of that thing. I went to school from South Meck. I got a scholarship. I won a scholarship to go to the Pratt Institute in New York. So I went to film school in New York. I still wanted to be Spielberg. I wanted to be George Lucas. I wanted to make all those great films and tell these stories. Graduated, was planning on going to LA, but then decided to go to Wilmington. The family's from North Carolina, and they had a film studio down there, and I could not break into the film studio. Just couldn't make it. I was a page. I went in, I did the little intern thing, but just wasn't working. So I backed and started to work on periodicals. I would have some people that would hire me to do an illustration for a magazine, much like all the classics like Norman Rockwell and these great painters, all my influences from the past, and telling these stories. So I decided to move back to Charlotte, and with my fiance, and we would start an art career here. Always start something up. And I met some wonderful people, and I just kept growing things and growing things. Let's see, where are we at here? We're about here. We're about here and there. I wanted to bring up an example of how history and filmmaking and imagination is brought on by that. So you see here, I've got the Star Wars, good old original poster, right? Oh yeah, there he is. That's it. That's what I want to see. That's right. And Bill made mention when we did our podcast the other week, and we were talking about the parallels between what inspires you and how these things kind of develop. And it's an older thing, but even George Lucas, you look at the new one, would say Darth Maul. He was inspired. You look at that. This was in my studio. This is in my new studio. I looked at it next to one of my paintings here, and I realized how they influence each other. These are Iroquois warriors from the French and Indian War, and I spend half of my time is spent researching these things. You have to be half historian and half artist to get this right. I do months of research before I even start a painting. And I had to get all the details right, and that's what I call these paintings, are windows in time. I like to kind of present this to you in a most literal way so that you can kind of step back in time. And I found that I couldn't break into the movie industry, and I'm not going to be the big filmmaker, but I could paint the climactic scene, the climactic frame of film in each one of these paintings. So I have spent the last 35 years, many different periods in history, but painting that iconic scene that you might see in a movie that is the one climactic moment. Right here, we're featuring the Battle of Charlotte. This is our local history. This happened uptown on the streets. This is Trade and Tryon Street 250 years ago. The British came through here. They thought they were going to just kind of push people aside, and the Mecklenburgers said nope. About 150 of them stood around this courthouse and fired off 3 volleys, I believe, and knocked the British right in the nose, and then they mounted on their horses on the other side of the courthouse and fled up North Tryon Street. So that happened right here. This was not my initial painting. This actually became this was kind of a whim for me, because I was painting the Civil War, I was painting Native American pieces, painting Wild West, painting Napoleon, and I was inspired locally. I had my studio here, meeting people, doing things, and I saw that sculpture by Chas Fagan, Captain Jack. It's our iconic. He's our Paul Revere of the South. And I looked at that sucker and I said, "My God, that's great! What an accomplishment that is." Maybe I should try to do something like that. I was half jealous. I was half like, what am I want to do something here. So I came home and I thought about it, and I said, there's this Battle of Charlotte took place right on the Trade and Tryon Street, and I went to work on it. And so some of the fun details of creating this stuff is no one was there to witness this stuff. You only hear it from written accounts, somebody telling you a story, and it's kind of boring, right, in class. But a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? So I went to work conceiving this image, and the fun things is that painting a historical subject is challenging, very challenging, because you've got to bring this to life in a way that's captivating, and you got to have these little secrets. I'll just tell you secrets of just different little fun things that I did in creating these things in regards to this painting. This courthouse was built on this stilts, these 8 pillars. It was a really unique design. It was really fun. Right here, these horses that have gone down here, some of the secrets is painting a horse flesh is very challenging, and that you will want to do a lot of research and get to know those muscles to make it right. If you paint a horse wrong, you can see it, you can tell it's different. What was fun here is the reference that I used for this was old photos from racehorses back in the turn of the century. And unfortunately, they had this big book, and I just found a book. And unfortunately, sometimes the horse would crash into each other, and they would have these terrible flips and crazy volleys. And I used that and converted that into Tarleton's cavalry, the British cavalry going down, because they shot right up in front of them there. So those are little fun things. And if you also know, this is called Into the Hornet's Nest is the name of the painting, which has become our Charlotte's theme from the war. I think it was Cornwallis or would mention that after that it was a hornet's nest, and I put a hornet's nest right up here in the corner if you look and see, and the hornets are buzzing there, so it's thematic and fun. Lots of good stuff there, but these are stories that I tell. I grew up when I was before that, when in college I didn't have a bunch of models. I use models now. I use cavalry guys, reenactors. You've all seen those great reenactors who go out and do this stuff for a living. I have many friends and contacts now, but I didn't. So when I was younger and I was starting out at his age, I would pose myself and I would get my Sunday jacket on, my your Sunday suit, and I would go out in the yard and roll around in the grass and use a broom as a gun, and then I would convert it, I'd take it into the studio and convert it. I think these guns were not even there when these models were used. I added that in later. I grew up I wanted to do these different scenarios with Miami Vice, so I would come up, we would have a pizza party with my friends. Again, these young men, same age. We'd have pizza, Domino's pizza, and I cut out little squares from the pizza box. Then we put firecrackers on them underneath, and then you'd light on fire and have an explosion when you got all these different experiments. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. I had a whole bunch, but now I'm just trying to recollect what I used to do. Anybody want to throw out a question to me? That would help me.
What's your favorite story of local history in Charlotte?
I tell you, this one just rocks. This is iconic. I mean, this is just so neat, so impactful. It wasn't supposed to win the day at all. It was supposed to be a delaying tactic, and they did just that. I think this is a consequential fight, but to talk history, Cornwallis was coming through here with a plan, and his plan got rocked. And he had to totally pivot after this. He stayed in Charlotte for 2 weeks. They went north, tried to fight, to figure out what was going on, and they came back to Charlotte and kind of set up, just kind of occupied the town for 2 weeks. He had 4 guns. He put them on all 4 corners where the statues are right now, the corners of town. But the Mecklenburgers provided a perimeter outside of the town. So whenever he tried to send a rider out to say, we need reinforcements, or I need to check with somebody, they would get sniped and they would get shot. And so he actually became an occupant in the town that he was trying to occupy. So he really, after a couple weeks, he said, I can't stay in this position. Kings Mountain's going on over there. Ferguson's losing. And so he pivoted his whole war plan, and that led to the Guilford Courthouse pursuit and all of that up there, and then ultimately to Yorktown. So what some people would say was a brief skirmish, I say actually kind of changed the direction of the war and led to the surrender. So that's what is embodied here in that piece right here.
Could you hold that up for the people over here?
Sure, this painting?
Yeah,
You'd like to see that?
the roof.
We can't see it.
Yeah, of course. We should put it up front here. Let me hear.
Don't
Do
you
that.
get too far with that microphone, you'll end the world.
Is that okay to see there? Does everybody see that better now? Yeah.
So you have prints of that?
I do. I have prints. I got prints in my car. I got prints all in. Always the artist gets selling out the back of the car. Please take.
Did you, the courthouse on the stilts or on the column?
Yeah.
Why was that?
It was a civilian thing. It was a courthouse. It was a meeting place. It was a neat design. I thought it was completely unique, but I've seen it other references now. But there was a marketplace underneath. So it was built on these brick thing. They had brick walls around it. And you'd have like a common place, almost like Charleston, you have that market down in the center of town there. So it's kind of based on that, and everything else was wilderness. It's really neat because you get to tell these stories, and I've got photoshops of this painting with the present day behind it, and it's all the bank buildings, and none of obviously none of them's there, but you just can't really imagine unless you are brought there in some way. Just how much we've grown and where we've come from. Sir?
At some point on West Trade, they had a reconstruction of it.
Mm-hmm.
Where the Bank of America building is now.
Yeah. We got the 250th coming up. And we got the 250th for this county coming up this year. We're going to try to do some good stuff next month and see what we can come up with to really recreate this in a new way. So I encourage everybody to come on out. And John's got some.
I've heard through the May 20th Society, they're reconstructing that courthouse.
There's an attempt to do that, and we hope for the best, and we shall see. But Trade and Crown Street on May 20th this year will be something to see, I think. Yes, sir. Yeah.
This looks just like Mount Vernon.
Huh.
Really, Fort Mount Vernon. Have you been
Oh,
there?
yes, yes.
It looks just like Mount Vernon, like that little circle, that little area.
Uh-huh.
Where the houses are, yeah.
Right.
It's just like that, near the barn and stuff.
Yeah, this is foundational stuff. This is 1780 is when that happened, 1780. Cornwallis's entire army came up. Here's a fun one. This is just going in different order. I grew up in South Charlotte. My friends here are with me today. I come from the Valentine area, on the border, literally on the border of North South Carolina, on a place called Clem's Branch. Clem's Branch is the place where Thomas Sumter, who was a general, camped his 150 militia men, like the movie The Patriot, the regulars that were, the colonials that were going out to defend the area. My father's a geotechnical engineer. We built my home in this subdivision, and he looked at the lot and he's like, "Dude, you got a riverbed going right through your whole lot. You're gonna have to build your house on a riverbed. They got to fill in that land." I'm like, "Okay, well, they do that, and that's fine." Turns out that was not a riverbed. That was a road. That was a sunken road, which actually is the old wagon road. So I built my home on the old wagon road that stretches from Charleston to Philadelphia. And it is on my private property. And so it's the most ironic thing that the guy who paints the history for a living built his home on the road there, and you see it winding around there. And I raised my children in it. We went in the back. Clem's Branch is the inspiration for multiple paintings. I have two daughters, and they're in college now. But they have watched Daddy build these things. They posed for me. I put my daughter's fingerprints in the paintings all throughout the career. So every painting of mine, or my children will know where their fingers were in the paint. They're in the grass into the hornet's nest. So there's all kind of fun stuff there. Yes.
Any haunted episodes?
I hadn't gone out. I've had some spooky sounds out there, but I've never done like a good archaeological dig or anything. I wanted to see about getting some metal detectors out there, but it is incredibly neat that I was kind of the custodian of this for 20 years, protecting this little private stretch of undiscovered, or just known history. But just to imagine, I've got a fire pit out there with George Washington. There's these two fire irons, and it's literally the same place where hundreds and hundreds of people met and had commerce and had their own fires and encampments, because that was the trade route. It was the local Catawba tribe was trading with Cherokees and the white settlers for many, many years before the Revolution at all. George Washington passed through my backyard in the road going north on his victory tour. He came in from Charleston and had a whole entourage where he'd come up in 1791 to thank all the Americans, the newly made Americans, to thank them for their service in the fighting during the war. Passed right through there, went up, had a barbecue at Trade and Tryon Street under this courthouse too. Crazy fun. I painted that as well. All of these paintings I am offering. These are like Bill was saying, and I appreciate all the good support. I've been painting something for 35 years, painting history. I've never had a gallery. I've done commission work, I've done other things, but I've never been a gallery artist. So now, for the first time, I've got a space over there. I've converted a sushi restaurant into a pop-up gallery showcase, kind of fun museum thing. And we're showcasing all of this work. My first kind of offering is the colonial period, from pre-colonial, from King Haigler of the Catawba Nation, all the way through the Battle of Charlotte and George Washington there. My partner and I have one of the largest military miniature collections in the country, I believe. We massed it. I'm the front end, he's the back end, he's the quiet back end, I'm the sizzle in the front. And we've got tens of thousands of these top shelf soldiers, and I create dioramas for them. So I've been doing that for the past 5 years as well, so I'm working in 3D as well. So what we'll have here, and I've got the Battle of Charlotte in 3D. We're gonna have different exhibits. I plan on maybe having what's colonial history now. Maybe by late summer could be D-Day. We've got enough to do an entire room full of World War II soldiers in the entire Normandy campaign. And so I just plan it. We've got the Civil War, we've got Napoleon, we've got Waterloo, we've got all kinds of fun stuff. So that is just opened up, and I'm so proud of that. I'm excited. And so I'm gonna be that type of showcase person as well now. So that's what I do for, yeah, go for it right there.
What's that location again for your?
6601 Carnegie Boulevard. It's right around the corner. It's right there. It's right by Roosters. I'm in the same building with them in Copan, the French bakery. Good traffic there. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Yeah. So that's so lovely. And but that's what I do for a living, and I got so many more stories to tell. But it's been a wonderful adventure, and just hope to make history in the future. Yeah. Well, thank you all. I missed a bunch of stuff. I got some stories. Lovely.
There might be more questions.
Yeah,
Any
please.
questions before we let him go? There's one right
There
there.
you go.
For anybody interested in history, some of the docents at various historic sites around Charlotte will be having another Voices from the Past down at Elmwood, an old settler cemetery.
Oh, yeah.
They're in period costume and character. It'll be Saturday afternoon, 1 to 4 on April the 19th. So the Voices from the Past, Charlotte. There are other places to do it, so specify Charlotte.com, and you can. Last year started selling tickets to help support the cemetery.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Say that website one more time.
Voices from the Past is a group of the docents from various historic sites around Charlotte. They research the life and character of the different people that are buried in Elmwood Cemetery, and they are in costume and character beside the graves of people that are buried there. They run shuttles. Parking is at Irwin Avenue School, and they shuttle from there. If you have a handicap sticker, you can park in the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
April 19th.
They'll have 4 authors there also in the author tent. They probably wouldn't mind having a historic artist there either.
Well, hello. Yeah. It's good. Very good.
Well,
Okay.
part of this is what a talent. Let's give this guy. So again, it is Carnegie. It is right on the other side of the mall. This man is in here, and these dioramas, a sampling of the dioramas are in this, and it is. We'll post it on Instagram tonight, just so you can get an idea. It's me with my camera, mouth wide open, and but you'll be able to see it. But please go over there. That is part of Dan's payment for being here tonight. It's for all of us to go over there. I do have a little.